Alright, so today we're gonna do the recap of the game 10, the Ding versus Nepo match, the overall view that this game was fully prepared by Nepo and his team, and pretty much he knew the game plan, how to draw the whole game until the very end game itself. There was only one moment where I think Ding missed his chance to put more problems into Black's Nepo endgame play, but apart from that, very clean game. So let's go over it and in detail. So c4 English opening, pretty common opening these days, and of course, you know, this is a very old line. You know, Garry Kasparov and Karpov used to play this. G3 followed by knight d4, bishop b4 was pretty common then, and great old line these days. You know, white tries everything, including e3, d4, a3, and we have seen the previous game where Ding played queen c2, managed to inflict a painful defeat early in the match. But this game he tries e4, and it's been very popular in the last few years. White just grabs the center immediately, and then he goes for bishop g2, and then the attack on the king side. So Nepo is obviously prepared, and he plays bishop c5. And now White has no choice pretty much, but he has to go for this forced line. And this is something that is very conducive to the strong engines analysis, and pretty much drawing up the game. So queen f3, best line, take. He plays bishop c5. The old line was bishop a5, I remember. But bishop c5 is perfectly playable. Queen g3. Now the only move that Black has which equalizes is king f8. Okay, almost equalizes. Black loses the castling rights, but his pawn structure is good. These pawns are doubled, despite the fact that, again, the king is uncastled. There are not that many pieces participating in the attack. There could be only a pair of bishops, plus the rooks, but the semi-close position. Black is going to play d6. And the only problem, again, how to deal with this king, because if this king gets somehow developed by h5, king g7, or d6, and then applying the pressure on this pawn, which takes away this critical square from Black, then Black is fine. So let's see how the players show their preparation. Bishop e2, d6. Now you want to take on e5, so White has to play bishop f4. If you take, bishop takes, attacking both pawns. So Black has to do something. He plays queen e7, preparing the rook lifts before the bishop move, but also potentially avoiding the pin. So rook d1, or you can castle, pretty much the same. And Black plays h5, very accurate engine move again, and the only one that keeps the balance in the game. The threat is that you want to play h4, you also potentially develop the rook by h6, and the combination of this pair of bishops taking a lot of squares from white queen creates big problems. So Ding castles, now h4, the computer shows bishop d7, but undoubtedly in their home preparation, the teams judged both moves and decided that h4 is most forcing. White plays queen d3, if he plays queen f3, it's the same thing, except that the pawn is protected. So you play queen d3. The point is that if you take on e5, there's queen d8 check, and bishop e5, and now there's spin, there's threat here, this pawn is gone, so Black doesn't need that. So he plays g5, again attacking the bishop and forcing White to basically take on d6. It's only move, take, the bishop, and now White has a couple moves. In the game he plays bishop d6, goes very safe route, but which leads into the endgame by force, which is pretty much very close to a draw. The other move was to play bishop e3 and try to keep some semblance of the tension on board, thanks to the queen's presence. But the problem with this move is after a recapture, again, if you want to keep the queens on board, you have to really play this very ugly looking move. Now you have 4 pawn islands, including double pawns, and Black has pretty easy game, just play king g7. Again, queen d6 is absolutely nothing because it leads to the equal endgame. But again, there's still some chances. He played bishop f3, put the bishop on d5. Black does have some weaknesses here, including the weak king, especially with the queens on board still. But again, I'm pretty sure that's been analyzed pretty well by both teams, and it's been decided that it's probably better for white to just take on d6 and play the endgame with extra pawn, considering that after this forced trade, bishop e6, developing the bishop, perfect position, attacks the pawns, takes away the key squares from the rook. Rook is coming here, and yeah, the only thing is that white has this move. Very, very nice move. It breaks apart the black's pawn structure thanks to this unfortunate king position, and black has to take this pawn. First he plays king e7, but then he takes this pawn, and after rook f4, it'll be very interesting to know what black had in mind. White played h3 first, and then take on f4, because this pawn on h4 would be like target for both rooks. But pretty sure this problem would be solved anyway. It could be rook g8, rook g5, because if you play h3, then it gives black rook access to the g3 square, but can attack this pawn. But okay, rook f4 is played, h3 is forced. The computer kind of prefers to play g3 here without rushing the pawn to g4, because it sort of allows you an option of playing rook h4 sometimes, and also keeping the pawn on the dark squares. Potentially this is a weakness, but g4 is okay. Rook c8, black improves the position. King f2, white brings the king, perfectly playable. And the only thing that I have of issue here with this game is that white plays a4, and even though it's the computer's second choice, I kind of like bishop f3 here, because white never gets another shot at improving his bishop, and here you have this huge chance to bring the bishop to d5, put him into the center instead of this passive position on e2 where he has to defend the pawns. But now, once the bishop is on d5, you block this bishop on e6, your bishop is in the center, attacking a lot of pawns, protecting this pawn, and potentially you have an option to transfer the game into the rook endgame, still with an extra pawn, and the pawn on h3 being pretty weakened. So I think that was a pretty decent way for black to play this. So he played b6, and after bishop d5, yes, black can attack this pawn, but so does white protect and counter-attack at the same time. And if rook g8, for example, then you can take on e6 and play king g3. And I believe black would have to be very, very accurate not to lose this game. And so I think actually Dink missed a pretty good chance to make life difficult for his opponent. The computer actually suggests f5 as the only move that keeps balance in this position, with the following crazy line: check here, check, king f6, check, and it has to play king g5, but after, to keep an option of hitting this pawn. But after check, rook h5, and simple even king h3. This is still advantage white thanks to these protected pass pawns. And if white managed to trade one pair of rooks, it's just probably an instant win. But thanks to black pair of rooks potentially going to d2, c2, second line, he maintains his drawing chances. But again, I think Dink missed a very good chance here to complicate matters, because bishop on d5 is such a force and potential to go into the rook endgame with an extra pawn. In the game, he played a4, and after rook a5, now this bishop is forever stuck protecting this pawn, and the bishop on e6 does absolutely everything, and black has to find this little nice move called Rook H6. An amazing move, but great move because it removes the rook from the 8th rank in case black needs to move his king to safety. Also, this rook is potentially going to f6 in case white does something like rook f8 here, and I'm thinking like why can't white just play king f4 is because of the rook f6 check, and you have to go back because otherwise rook goes to f1. So the problem with white position, the rook on a5 is extremely powerful. It stops g5, it attacks this pawn, it protects this pawn chain, which protects rook instead as well. Also rook controls these squares. So this rook is very strong. It ties up the whole bishop, king, and rooks to the defense of this pawn, White has absolutely no way to improve his position. He has no way to reach this h3 pawn without losing this pawn. So now Ding goes to try his last chance, which is to play Rook d8 check. In this position, Rook d8 check, King g7, and then he plays Rook a8. But after Rook c5, again, he decides to go for the mass exchanges because otherwise Black just shuffles his Rook back and forth. This Rook on a8 alone can't do anything, and you need really the Rook on d4 to get the Rook to g8. So let's see what would have happened if you play Bishop b3, for example, Rook a5 and Rook d4, with the idea Rook d8, and then Black can play Rook f6, or even Rook f5, and then Rook g6. Alright, so this was probably still very interesting, but after King f4, King f6, that's the whole point. You protect the Rook, you're threatening Rook g4, and Rook is about to enter to e1, and White has to be very careful here. So, but if you play Rook g8 and take on g6, King takes, the Rook is threatening to go to e3, and you see how really lousy this bishop is. If King f4, then Rook e2, attacking the pawn. So Black actually can get easily better in this position because the difference in the bishops is too huge. Okay, so that's why Ding decides to take on a7 and try to force the matters, but Black is very, very precise. Bishop takes, a lot of threats, including Bishop d3, Bishop b3 to attack this pawn. So Ding plays Rook e7, Rook h6, allows White to recapture on h3, but again, with all the trades, we're gonna have 2 versus 1 in the endgame, which is draw. So Ding plays Rook e5. I think at this point he just basically surrendered to the draw because he realizes that there is no way he can win this anyway, and he doesn't even look at any potential chances. But after Rook e5, take, Bishop b3, the bishop is under attack, so is the pawn. And this position is clearly a draw, especially after Nepo's very, very accurate f5 move. The pawn is forced to take because if you play g5, it's Rook g4. And these beautiful pawns have to be now disconnected, and Black gets this last pawn. And with this, it's an obvious draw. So the draw was reached. Again, very powerful preparation by Nepo. I'm pretty sure Ding remembers something of this line, but probably not everything, and there were so many lines for him to look at. In the endgame, he could have posed more problems with Bishop f3, but he played a4, even though he had like 1 hour on the clock. So that was probably the only moment he missed a chance to fight for his advantage. Otherwise, Nepo was very, very accurate with his defense, and he made the draw. So this was the recap for this game. Hope you liked it. Please subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you for the recap of the next game soon.